Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Tech Talks at Tech Projects, our in house podcast series where we bring in our leaders, innovators, and experts to share their valuable insights. We have Rakesh Singh today with us.
My name is Rakesh Singh. I've been in the industry for 30 years. I think I have experienced right from my beginning as a graphic designer to a technology leader, um, various organizations, a lot of people, a lot of customers. And then lately, I also started following my passion into writing books. And then I definitely enjoy talking to the youths because I think, as part of our social commitment and give back to the society, it's very important that give away the baton that we have been holding for so many years and keep our youths ready to kind of face the challenges that they. So I mentor a lot of youths and upcoming startup entrepreneurs.
Oh, wonderful. I have read your book too. It's very inspiring and, at least a lot of things, what we should be doing, what we should not be doing, what are the lessons we should learn. Your journey will always inspire a lot of people.
Thank you.
If we have to say, right, like let's say you have been in the industry for 30 years, and before 30 years, we don't even know how technology was involved.
Absolutely.
So, what was it back then, and how did you get inspired to come into this technology space?
See, my entry to IT was accidental, right? I always wanted to be a fighter pilot.
Awesome.
And I was so confident that I thought nothing can come in between me and my goal.
Hmm.
But I was wrong, right? And that's why I always encourage everyone that you should have a plan A, plan B, and a plan C. So, when I couldn't make up, I had to find a career. I had no skills. I was computer illiterate because computer was introduced in India in early 90s. But I used to make fun of my friends because the only application of the computer at that time was at the railway reservation center. Even in the bank, it was a back office thing, not in the front, right? So I used to mock and tell them, okay, you finish your computer. I will see you when I have to come and book railway ticket, right? Without knowing that one day it will become my bread and butter. But see, I think it's the same journey. I mean, for me, technology is when the car was invented, automobile was invented. That was also a technology,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
Everybody felt that what will happen to the horse carts on the street, especially when Ford democratized the automobile in
Automobile.
US, right? Now today you and me can afford three cars, but we can't even afford a horse, right? So my experience with technology or any transformation for that matter is that it goes through three phases. The very first phase is fear. Any change, like the same thing happened when computer
Yeah.
came, and now the same thing is happening when everybody's talking about AI, right?
Yep.
So the first thing any transformation will do is it will create fear.
Yep.
Then it creates disruption. But then the third phase is opportunity. So we have to be very patient going through and surviving through the first two phases of the fear and the disruption, but then comes the opportunity. So I think I use the same approach, but subconsciously, I never knew that, this is the pattern at that time. But that is what I will advise every youth, that any transformation that comes, you just have to look and wait for the opportunity and kind of prepare yourself for that phase ahead of time.
Yeah, you brought up the fear of AI, right? That's exactly where we are right now.
Correct.
So here we have a lot of folks who have fear of adopting to AI.
Mhm.
Either they don't know how to use it, that part at least we are taking care, but most of them are not able to see where the future is with that. So in your roadmap or maybe with your experience, what do you think it's going to be?
Change is inevitable, we all know, right? And then I know many people have said that it's not the AI
Mhm.
that is going to replace the job. It's the person who knows AI is the person who's going to replace the
Replace it.
job, right?
Well said.
So, in my opinion, I think if we can, and then remember, right, the way we are wired, we are very well, our survival instinct will always tell you about or warn you about sudden change.
Mhm.
What we really need to understand is how do we monitor the gradual changes around us,
Yeah.
because you will not notice gradual changes.
Yeah.
So as long as we can develop awareness around how to keep what's going on in the market and keep adopting those skills, right? So I would say that rather than getting afraid of AI and worried about whether you will lose your job, start leveraging AI, start learning AI, and see how you can adapt it. End of the day, it's a tool. So if we take it from that perspective,
Mhm.
we will definitely find ways through this phase of fear and disruption.
Okay. Thank you, sir. That's really well said.
Yeah.
We know that you have led many large scale digital transformations, right? So, in your experience, right, what is that one thing that defines a perfect project or maybe a perfect transformation project?
See, I think the biggest challenge for IT in my experience is the lack of trust with business. I have often heard, either within our organization or outside talking to my peers, that business would always say IT is slow and IT is expensive. And the reason is because there is a disconnect. As a technology evangelist, our focus is more on technology. We do not spend time to understand. When it comes to a project, right from the inception to the approval to the execution, lies a very important skill, and that's the art of storytelling. If you do not know how to narrate your idea in a way where you can sell it, you will not get funded, because we are all in a constant constraint resource situation. There are no budgets, or there are shrinking budgets, there are reduced manpower, right? And then timing. The priority keeps changing. Business today wants something, then the focus changes. Not to blame business, but they have to beat the competition, and it's an ever changing world, and the competition is changing, so they have to course correct. Everybody has to course correct, right? So in my opinion, the very first step that we really need to do is co-create the strategy. Gone are the days where business has a different strategy and IT has a different strategy. You have to bring all of them together, and I know most of the organization are doing it. We in fact did that paradigm shift a couple of years ago, where we identified our business relationships manager who had a seat on the table for all the business strategy conversation, and they're bringing all of that information, and all the budgeting exercises and project and roadmap is happening with business on the table, right? And the success is always derived by outcome, right?
Exactly. Yep.
And to regain the broken trust, I think what I have also learned, and I had a very great conversation with one of our chief supply chain officer, right? Trust, it's a 4 step process. Either you call it as a 4 step or 4 pillars, right? The very first pillar is integrity. If you do not have integrity, I'll not trust you, right?
Exactly. Yep.
The second important pillar is intent. So I may have the highest integrity, but if my intent is not to help you, you will not trust me. Then comes the capability or competency. If I have the highest integrity, I have the intent to help you, but if I do not have that skill or the capability, you will not trust me. The fourth and the most important pillar, in my opinion, is outcome. So I may have highest integrity, I may have all the intent, I may be the best person on this earth who knows it, but if I haven't delivered outcome in my life itself, you will never trust me. And I think that is where we are. Business is looking through all these 4 different lenses, right? So a success of a project is not just an IT responsibility, right? The outcome that was defined as the outcome of the project as part of the project charter is what we should keep marching towards. And then remember, we are all in an ever changing world, so requirement will change. See, generally what happens is we are very adamant, oh, business change the requirement and there is a scope creep. I mean, see, in the agile world today, with the ever changing condition, those are very, very common scenarios. So how do you get together, realign, and then keep moving towards the end goal is the only way we can define success.
So we have to redefine the complete ecosystem.
Right, always keep checking what is changing, and do we really need to realign. And that's the core of the agile methodology, right? You build iterations so that you can keep taking the inputs from the operation or from the market, and then keep evolving.
So we have seen that infrastructure is evolving rapidly, right? So how do you see the enterprise infrastructure being evolved in the cloud first space?
See, again, right, I will relate this question back to my previous response. The adoption is driven by need. So while I'm a strong proponent of cloud first, but we also really need to answer few questions before we get there. And the biggest hindrance around that journey is the legacy technology. And it was never, in my experience, it was never about technology. It was our readiness to move to a newer technology, or business readiness for adoption to the new technology, right? The technology part or the puzzle was the easiest, in my opinion, to solve. It was getting the alignment on the change, getting all those change funded. Those are, and then your application rationalization, and then it's a lot of effort. There is a lot of steps before we get to the culture of cloud first. Like, we made an attempt in legacy Spartan Nash. We had only few success, right? The reason was the application owners and the businesses, they had different priorities, and they will always have different priorities, because remember, as I said, it's an ever changing world. Competition is changing, everybody is disrupting, you have to keep up with it, right? So sometimes, because of the priority, you still have legacy or tech debt, right, as we call in technology. I think there's no silver bullet where you can say today I am on prem and tomorrow I will go on cloud. It's a journey, it's a multi-year journey. More than a technology upgrade, It's a mindset
Mindset. Yeah.
that we really need to change in the organization.
Moving on to the next question. We know that there is a lot of automation happening on the enterprise architecture. So, from the IT operations side, which particular area or how do you see the roadmap in the next few years with respect to automation?
See, I think I've been working on AI Ops, which is an artificial intelligence operation framework since 2016, and I've seen it evolve over last 10 years,
Mhm.
right? I think now it's the time when we are ready both with the mindset, with process
Mhm.
and the technology to adopt. I think in the roadmap, I'll not be surprised if we in next 2 to 3 years we move towards a zero operation framework, where you are detecting earlier and you are correcting earlier, right? And all of this can be done with autonomy. Or like everybody's saying, I also support that the AI should be with the human in the loop, because you have to keep evolving. While it does a lot of self learning, but then you do need to input some of the changes that are coming from a process perspective. So that is what I see in the long term, right? I think we are already working on a framework of an experience operation center that will basically bring all the ecosystem together, where we can relate an event and an incident with a business impact, not only in terms of the application but also in terms of revenue and workforce loss, right? So for that, we really need to start integrating a lot of data that we already have in our data lake, but the possibilities are there, right? This is no more a state where the tools are evolving. I've seen that maturing in last 10 years. So that is how I'm seeing that one day it will become a zero operation center or an experience operation center.
So you still believe that the agent will keep on trying, it will analyze the pattern, probably go back to a self heal,
Mhm.
and it will go back and say, okay, these are the steps I did. I should correct it going forward. And
Correct.
it should keep on preparing its own.
Absolutely. I think human will only be there to handle anomaly. Everything else, because see, the fact is, even if you pick the data today, right, more than 80 to 85% of the task is mundane or repeated task. As a human, it is impossible for us to consume the plethora of data and do the correlation. But with this tool, we can do the correlation, deduplication, pattern analysis, going back into time slice, what was done to resolve this issue, what knowledge article was used. Now the machine can pick that one and automate the remediation. And only when those things doesn't work is where, for anomaly handling, you can escalate it to a human. So today we may have size of 30, 20 teams. Tomorrow it can become less than 5 people, right, who will only be doing anomaly handling. And I'm very confident 3 4 years we would reach there.
The way we are seeing things have changed completely now.
Yep.
The thought process, the way things are working, the way we are advancing, it's all pretty in a fast track
Yeah, because
approach.
if you just step out of the IT and start looking into other business segments, it's already happening,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Most of the calls that you receive is a robocall. We can hardly tell that we are not talking to a human. So we are already reached to that level of technology excellence. Just really need to find a problem and then start applying that technology into problem resolution. And once you have those use cases identified, that's what I always say, right? It was never about people, process, and technology, right? Even though everybody says that, it is all about, do you have a problem statement?
Clearly defined.
That's the very first step, right? And I think that's another thing I would kind of request every technology associate to gain skills around design thinking principle. In my experience, I have seen that because we are so passionate about technology, we skip to first most important level of design thinking and we straight away jump into finding solution. So I think if we apply those design thinking principles and empathize and define the problem statement, then we can bring this technology to solve those problems, right? What we are doing is we are trying to do other way around. We are throwing a tool first and then we are enforcing an adoption. Now everybody's confused what to do because we never defined those use cases, we never defined the success criteria. So I think we just have to take a step back and then do it just other way around. First find a problem statement that we want to solve, then see what tool, what process you want to bring in, what people you want to bring it to do it, right? So if we'll just change the approach, I think the adoption and the outcome will be delivered sooner.
Yeah, definitely. This is a keynote. I'll make sure that, we educate everyone to
Mhm.
do a design thinking first, know what you're trying to do,
Correct.
understand the problem statement clearly, then start building a solution around it.
Correct.
Yeah, we'll definitely make sure that that's
Thank
a
you.
very, very important point that you brought up. We all know that you are a really good mentor for leaders, IT professionals and all. So what is that one common advice do you generally give to everyone?
it also depends, right, who I'm talking to. But then let's say if I'm talking to early starters,
Mhm.
my very first advice for them is to find their ikigai. I think it is very important for us to find our strength,
Mhm.
our passion, if you really want to be successful, right? When I grew up, message was work on your weaknesses. But in my experience in 30 years, I have hardly seen someone who was able to transform their weaknesses into their strength. You can only bring them to be a manageable. Now there are exceptions. I'm not saying that nobody has done it, but those percentages are very, very small. And if you apply Pareto principle, 80-20 rule, you don't want to put your 80% effort and get 20% result. That's exactly what happens when you are trying to focus on your weakness. Rather, I would sell and oversell my strength. So I would just do put 20% effort on my strength that will give 80% of the outcome. And ikigai is basically a Japanese method of
Mhm.
finding the purpose. So that is what I advise them to for my early starters, right? And then I think for if it comes to the leadership, right? End of the day, we have to walk our talk. And empathy is the very first step that all people leader should have. And I think, and being honest to your team members. See, there will be never in your life that all decisions will be right. And my definition is the opposite of success is learning, not failure. So, is it good or bad? Is it good to learn or is it bad to learn? It's good to learn, right?
Yeah.
Then why are we afraid from making mistakes if it is equal to learning,
Yeah.
right? And it's an iteration. You will make a mistake as long as you're introspecting and doing applying your problem solver skills to understand what should I do different, right? So it's just an iteration. But then resiliency and never give up is basically the keyword that I want to leave as the response to this question. If you have that attitude of never giving up, you will figure out your way.
We all try to do that, right? Just show up, keep doing things.
Absolutely.
It might be right, wrong, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Just keep on doing things.
Right.
Someday we will all figure out what
Absolutely.
is happening. In your journey as a leader, right, you might have seen a lot of challenges. Are there any significant or important challenges that you faced that you learned from it and you want to mentor us?
See, I think my life was full of learning, and I feel absolute pride in saying that if I look back, my success rate was always 100%,
Oh,
right? And the reason was, and I may have taken time, right? I'm not saying that I got success in the very first attempt, but I think that was my approach. I think as a leader, you have to be fearless. And it's a different culture here in India and in US, right? Sometimes we get intimidated and get lost into the complexity of the organizational hierarchy, right? But I think if you want to grow as a leader or as a team contributor, you have to be fearless. Functional hierarchy, I mean, the hierarchy in the organization is mostly for a functional flow or functional arrangement. Every individual in that hierarchy has an important role. If we think from that perspective, and if we think, see, what I have learned is if you really want to grow, you have to be different than what you are today. It's exactly like the upgrades that we receive on our phone. Who wants to stay on an older version? You don't get the features, and there is a risk of being vulnerable. Same applies to us. If I do not upgrade myself every day, why would somebody hire me? Keeping a zeal of making you better than today is what will take you to growth. But then, and that will only come through fearness, right? The power to say no. The culture that I grew, no was supposed to be in obedience. That means you are rude, right? It took me 7 years to learn how to say no. But it is the most important thing in today's era. If you want to be a contributor towards the success of the organization or to the success of your team, right? See, if the organization is growing, if your team is growing, you will automatically grow. So move your focus away from your individual growth and put your focus towards the organizational growth. And if you do it, everybody will grow together, right? So those are some of the things that I applied. And along with resiliency, as I said, right? So that is something that I would recommend everybody because those practices have fetched me a good career, right? And I think when I look back and I talk to all the people that have worked for me, I see the acknowledgement and I see all of them have grown to a very significant role. So that gives me a lot of confidence and a sense of satisfaction, right? That would be my piece of advice, to everyone.
so to add on to it, right? This is purely for me. So, even I'm good at saying no, but people take it in a wrong way. Some people think it's rude. So, how have you mastered saying no? You just said you have mastered the way you said you have evolved in 7 years, the art of saying no, right?
Correct.
So, how did you do it?
See, again, right? I'll if you remember, there are few things that I said in the earlier question. The very first thing is trust. It will only come through outcome. So let's say we are in a disagreement, right? And I always say that my team member that you don't have to agree with others. You have to align with them. So if you are going in a meeting, I don't want you to come out with agreement. I want you to come out with alignment. So what will happen? Let's say we are in a disagreement. I am saying let's take right, and you are saying let's take left. Somehow we aligned, whatever, right? I intimidated you or whatever, right? And we took the right turn, and we both of us fell in a ditch. So it's only outcome over a period of time. So next time I would say, okay, Kaushik, let's try left, and then maybe we get some success. That is how you gain trust. And once you get trust, you are building relationship. And when you have built relationship, everything is informal. Then you will feel very comfortable expressing yourself, saying no, putting your thought process on the table, right? So it will take time, and only outcome will bring the difference. And that's the reason I was saying resiliency, right? If you'll say, let's say, oh, I told him 2 times, he's never listening to me, right? Never give up. Never give up. Try to find different ways to communicate. So it will go back to the art of storytelling. Then it will take you to the art of problem solving. So those are the keywords, right? That would come in every scenario, right? Trust, problem solving skills, art of storytelling, right? So those, I think, in my opinion, is, if you'll tell me what are the 5 things that you have learned, those are the things that I'll tell you. If people are focusing, if they find their ikigai, if they learn design thinking principle, if they learn art of storytelling, if they learn problem solving, and they know how to build trust, these are the 5 things that you need, be successful, either as a leader or as a contributor.
Very well said. Probably I'll try to implement, I'll try to follow, getting into alignment first rather than, all agree.
Correct.
So the other interesting aspect is you said accidentally you came into IT space, right? If not IT, what would have you done?
As I said, that my passion was to be a fighter pilot in Indian Air Force. And then and what I've also realized that I love being close to nature, and natively in my DNA, I am a problem solver. So if I was not in IT, I would have found some other place where I can still keep up with my passion of problem solving. It could be, mentoring people. It could be becoming an environmentalist. So those would be the places where I would have, or maybe if I retire, that those are the places where I'll go and spend majority of my time.
Do you have anything in mind that you wanted to do after retiring?
See, I think what I have picked up, that I have somehow developed passion for real estate. And in fact, maybe on this podcast, I can reveal that my third book is coming.
Okay.
It's called 25 Door in 13 Months. So that is my experience of building a 25 property portfolio in 13 months. So I think as my retirement plan, I'll continue to explore that passion. I've given it a pause because it was part of a. So the funny thing is, I was watching a video on YouTube, and this gentleman was talking about buying 2 rental property in a year. And I love, this is bullshit, because after 15 years it was so tough for me to buy one house in US. How is he saying that you can buy 2 properties in a year? And then somehow I promised to myself that I'll make 10 in 1 year.
Wow.
Right, I don't know from where it came. Maybe I wanted to set a target that will depolarize me and I'll stop exploring that passion. But then exactly, so I missed my target by 1 month. So, but then in 13 months, I was able to build a portfolio of 25 properties. So, or doors, right? So, this book is all about that. So, I somehow got intrigued. Now, of course, I ran out of all of my money. So, I stopped that passion. It was part of a goal, right? So, maybe after retirement, I may pursue.
Yeah, that's completely different, passion with what we are currently doing.
Correct.
Going into real estate, understanding the
Yeah.
market and all.
But then I'll tell you, technology is part of that passion too, right? Because everything that I did was all using technology. So
Oh, you are trying to, go over all the do a scan of all the sites across, understand where there is lagging and trying to pitch in.
Right.
Wonderful. At least we are trying to utilize what we have learned in the past 30 years, build something smarter. Thanks a lot, sir. Thanks for taking time, traveling across the world, coming to our Tech Projects GCC, mentoring the teams, mentoring the leaders, including me too. It really means a lot. And thanks once again for showing up on our show.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure, right? I think that how much I believe in the strength that we have here, and then the strength that we have in our roadmap to build here. So I'm looking forward to this, and it's a privilege that if I could influence anyone or bring even a difference in a single person's life, I would feel that I've achieved my objective. So thank you very much.
Thank you.